Hello everyone, today I'm going to talk about how to connect to the console port of a Cisco router and switch. Actually, it's very simple. Whoever wants to work with a real router and switch, so he needs to connect to a console port in order to start configuring this device, his device. When you purchase a device, of course, it does not have any configuration. It doesn't have any IP address to which you can telnet. So the responsibility of configuring this device becomes yours. So you have to do that. But since there is nothing that allows you to telnet to the router, it has empty configuration file. So you have to access the router and switch through the console port. So the console port is the only mean that allows you actually to configure your router when there is no configuration yet. It's very simple. What do you need? You need a PC and router, and of course you need a console port, a console cable, sorry. Generally, this console cable, they are shipped with routers and switches. They come with routers and switch. When you open the box, you take your router or switch, and then you will find also cable there, lying there. So just pick it and connect the computer to the router in order to start establishing or configuring your device. So in order to do that, it's very simple. So on your PC side, you have to use a RJ45 to DB9 adapter. Okay, and you have the console cable. Generally, it's a blue color, and then you connect it to the other end. The other end of the cable will connect to the console port of router or switch. The console port has an RJ45 form factor. This is what it used to be actually, and it's still today, RJ45 form factor. Now, if you look closer here, we see something. This is the back of router, and you notice the console port with RJ45 form factor. It has a blue color here. The name is shown with a blue color in the background. And next to it, we have an auxiliary port which is also the same as console port, but it has hardware flow control enabled. So hardware flow control, which means that the auxiliary port used to be, this port was used in the past to access the console of router through telephone line. Now, the console port is, as you see, RJ45 form factor. And if you look at the back of the PC, you will find a serial port, COM1. And serial port has 9 pins, and you notice something else is that it is a male, it's a male connector. It has 9 pins. You see also there are also other connectors available in on the motherboard. Now the issue is to connect. We need to connect this connector here, the serial port, to the RJ45 console port. This is what we are going to do. To do that, it's very simple. As we said, whenever you purchase a Cisco router and switch, they come shipped with console cable. So you can have a console cable like this. Both ends you have RJ45 connectors at both ends. Now one end, one RJ45 connector is going to be connected directly to the console port of the router or switch, and the other RJ45 connector basically needs to be connected to the serial port at the back of the PC, on the motherboard of the PC. Now, since you see the form factors are different, so you need to use an adapter. So this RJ45 connector, you're going to connect it to the adapter, one end of the connector, and at the other end of the connector, it will provide you with the serial interface. With a serial interface, as you notice here, it's a female serial interface, whereas in this case, what you have on the PC, it's a male serial interface. So on the PC, generally you have a data terminal equipment, DTE, whereas on this on this side here is an adapter, which is a female interface. Now you just need to connect this adapter to the cable, and here you are. One end connects to the console port of router, and the other end will go directly into the serial port of the PC. You just have to configure your software, use a specific software in order to access your router and start configuring. Now, we have another type of cable. So with this cable, basically, you make economy of adapter. You don't need adapter, separate adapter. Adapter comes embedded in the cable, so it is already integrated in the cable. So one end is simply RJ45, which goes directly into the Cisco console port, into the console port of the router, RJ45, and the other end is already adapted to the serial port or to the serial interface. You notice here it is a female interface with 9 ports. So this cable showed later. Okay, so in the past they used to ship routers and switch with this type of cables and with adapters. After that, things improved, and they used to ship cables, console cables like this. Now, nowadays there is an issue. There is really a very important aspect to be considered, is that if you look at the back of computer, you will not find serial port anymore. For example, in this case, what do we see here? This is a motherboard of PC. We have USB ports, VGA, DVI, HDMI. We have USB 3, other USB ports, and RJ45 for network interface card. Plus the PS2 and audio interface. But where is the serial interface? There is no serial interface at all. There is no COM1, there is no COM2, etc. So how can we connect the PC to the console port of router? In this case, we have to use this type of cable, USB to RJ45 adapters with USB to RJ45. So one end, the USB end, is going to connect to a USB port available on the PC, on your PC, and the RJ45 will connect directly into the console port of your router. So this is a cable here. So one end is RJ45, the other end is simply the USB plug, which is going to connect directly to USB port on your PC. But of course, if you want to use something like this, make sure that you install a piece of software which is going to be shipped with this cable. So this is very important. Why? Because the software actually is going to, the driver or the piece of code or software is going to handle the signal from USB to RJ45 and back. Without installing the software properly, so it's not going to work. So the software is going to make the PC recognize the USB port as COM1, as a serial port. So it's going to look at it, because don't forget, definitely these cables is a serial cable. Now the way it's implemented is a rollover cable. A rollover cable means that pin 1 connects to pin 8, pin 2 to pin 7, pin 3 to pin 6. It's like it's a mirror. So it's a rollover cable. Now a rollover cable which uses serial signal. It's a serial cable also. Now you need to have an adapter, and this adapter will make your PC think that the USB port that you're using is a COM1 or COM2 or COM3, depending on the way things are set up on your machine. Now, the problem, assume that you don't have these cables. These cables are not available to you, but you have only this type of cables, okay? So assume that you have these types of cable. You are still using your PC and connect peacefully to the router, but one day you change your computer, and the new computer that you bring doesn't have any serial interface here. So what you will do, you keep this cable that you have, but you have to purchase an adapter, what we call a USB to serial adapter. So this is very important, and you have different form factors. This is one form factor, and this is another form factor. Okay, so this is very simple. This adapter allows you to use the already available cables that used before, when you used to have serial port on your PC, to connect to the console port of your router and switch. So it will end up something like this. This is your old console cable. Now you see this serial interface will connect to the adapter. Okay, the adapter should be a male adapter. You see, it's a male interface. It's a male interface because this one is a female. And then this adapter will give you access to the connectivity with a USB port on the PC. Of course, make sure that you have the CD that contains the driver. The driver will tell the PC, hey, this USB port to which you are communicating will be seen. I'm going to see it as a COM1 or as a serial port. I will consider it as a serial port. From my perspective, it is a serial port. So when you configure, when you go to devices, you will see COM1, COM2, COM3, or COM4, depending on which COM the USB is going to be will be considered. Okay, so if you look at modern routers and switches like this one, what you will find? You will find something interesting. You will find the console port, RJ45 form factor, and you will have another console port which is simply a USB port, okay? And where is here the auxiliary port? It seems that it is not available. I'm not sure about it, but we have two ports that can be used as console ports. Of course, you have to use one of them at any time, either the RJ45 or the USB. So, of course, in this case, you have to make sure that you use the proper cable. So, if you don't want to use the RJ45, instead you say, okay, I want to use the USB port as my console port. In that case, you have to purchase another type of cable or console cable, where one end is a type A USB and the other end is a type B USB port. It's a type B USB port that's going to be used to connect. So as you see here, the picture make things clear. Okay, so definitely make sure that you have the driver that on your PC side, install it when you use this type of cables. When you are obliged to use the USB port, USB cable to connect it to USB port on the PC side. Now, this is a difference between the two. Now, in this case, we are showing a new console cable that connects to the RJ45 console port. Okay, with this cable, we're showing the case where you use a console cable to connect to a USB port to a console port, which is USB on the router side and the switch side, or the switch side. Now, this is an example how things can be set up. For example, you bring an old console cable like this. As I told you, it's a blue or black color, so they work together. It's the same thing basically, although the black color was meant to be used with the auxiliary port, auxiliary console, but it works also with the normal console, I mean the blue console. So this is the console cable. You connect it, use the adapter to transform the RJ45 signaling here into the serial signaling, and then use an adapter, serial to USB adapter, and connect directly to your device, your laptop and or PC. Of course, nowadays laptops, they don't have serial interfaces anymore, only USB. Okay, you can find USB ports. Now, you can summarize all this using simply this cable here. This cable, right? This cable. So you connect one end to USB and the other end to the RJ45 console port. And in case where you are using new router, well, it's very simple. Then at that moment, you have to use this type. You can simply use this console port with this form factor, USB form factor. So you have to use this type of console cables, which will make things much more interesting. Hope this presentation was interesting. I just wanted to make sure that people understand basically now the newest technique to connect to Cisco routers on switches using the console port. Thank you for viewing, and see you next time in one of my future videos.